Hall of Famer, columnist John McClain with us on 365 Sports. Craig Smoke, Paul Catalina, and I'm David Smoke. John, we were talking about this young man who's been at Georgia and USC. Amazing talent in Bear Alexander. I don't know down the road if he's even going to be a part of an NFL combine. Can you imagine he's been to 7 schools in 6 years, 5 high schools in 4? Can you imagine being able to record the questions NFL teams would be asking him at the combine?
It would be unbelievable because I can't imagine anybody done that. If you can play, if they think you can play, it doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter how many schools you've been to, but obviously he would have a lot of explaining to do.
Explaining. I like it. Paul?
John, as we near the draft, do you think things are becoming clear what's going to happen after Caleb Williams, or is it just as muddy as it was, say, a week ago?
Well, just as muddy as it was a week ago. We know it's going to be Caleb Williams. We don't know what order the other quarterbacks are going to go in. We don't know how many teams are going to try to trade up. But that's what makes it so interesting. I wish they just go ahead and sign Caleb Williams. You can do that if you want to do it, but they're going to sit there when the first day of the draft on the 25th, and they're going to delay that first pick just so they can talk more about Caleb Williams and the Bears instead of just getting it out of the way and then moving on to the mystery.
John, as Commanders fans, it's excruciating to know that Caleb Williams is going 1, and then it's great, like they've got this option of all the other guys, but it's also dreadful knowing what the Commanders have done with their quarterback picks in the past and how that's gone sideways. So based on just kind of what you hear, is there any kind of separator you feel like between a Drake May, between a Jaden Daniels? I guess those two being the main possibilities there at number 2?
Craig, most people are saying it's going to be Daniels because of Cliff Kingsbury. If you look at Kingsbury, when he was at Arizona, he got them to draft Kyler Murray first overall. First thing you think about Murray is mobility. Now, you got Jaden Daniels, who's a lot bigger and just as fast, maybe not as quick because Murray is small. I don't know, maybe Michael Vick, that I've ever seen a quarterback quicker than he is. And he might just have a bigger version of Kyler Murray. So if indeed he's influential, and I'm sure guessing he is, since Dan Quinn's the former defensive coordinator, as the head coach, and they're going to listen to him. And I think because Daniel's such an exciting player, but I'm guessing they're going with him because of Kingsbury's history of quarterbacks.
John, who do you think the Texans now at 42? You mentioned defensive end. Have you got kind of an idea of like the guys they might look at now that they're out of the first round completely?
Yeah, they got 9 picks overall. They got 2 2s, 1, 2 4, 2 6s, and 2 7s. And with those 2 2s, they need a corner and they need a defensive tackle. Whether it's a defensive tackle first or if it's a corner first, I don't know. Braden Fiske, defensive tackle from Florida State. I'd love to see them get him there. And I've been thinking about Devondre Sweat. And Sweat is, boy, you talk about bad timing to be stupid. You know, it's one thing if he's going to eat himself out of the league, which people worry about. You know, he's got a reputation, he's a great talent. But if he was 340 instead of 366, he'd be a first-round pick. And now to get in Iraq and then get DWI, that he's going to, you talk about having a lot of splaining to do. He's got a lot of splaining to do. If he was 340 and had stayed out of trouble, he'd be a first-round pick. He'd go before Byron Murphy, who's now going to go way before him. And I don't think that his problem, one of the things people are going to have to rush to is find out, does he have a drinking problem? Does he have a partying problem? They should have known that before. And could it cost him some spots and some money? Yeah, but he ought to be highly motivated when he gets on the field.
John, the Cowboys are at 24. They have this why, this offseason that Jerry very much misspoke when he said he was going all in, because he gave a lot of people false hope and they didn't have the mathematics to go all in. Is this a draft where they should strongly consider trading back and getting more draft picks, because they've got to fill their roster, and the salary cap problems don't stop next year, even if they do sign Dak to an extension?
Well, first of all, we know what he's been doing during free agency. He's been helping lure John Calipari from Kentucky to Arkansas.
Yeah.
Now, if he's done Cowboy stuff as well as he can do that, then everyone be really fired up about the Cowboys. They're going to get Dak extended. They're going to get Parsons, and they're going to get CJ. It's like when they had Aikman and Smith and Irvin. They kept redoing it, pushing the cap down the road because they had 3 stars on offense. And then at some point, the piper will have to be paid. You hope that the Cowboys have had a chance to win another Super Bowl. But CeeDee Lamb, I mispronounced his name, CeeDee Lamb is going to get it, and Parsons will get it. And I can't see them letting Dak walk and starting all over after you've extended the other 2 guys. So I think the Cowboys are going to still be prolific. They're going to be capable of winning 12 games again. But, they suffered some free agent losses. They better have a good draft. And after the draft, they better sweep in there and get a couple of more veteran free agents who thought they were going to make big bucks but are not, and would welcome a chance to come to the Cowboys on a 1-year deal with a chance to make more if you stay on the field and the team is successful.
They had a time there where their offensive line with Frederick, who, of course, ended up with that very unique injury that debilitated him for a while. You have a Hall of Famer in Tyron Smith, a Hall of Famer in Zach Martin. Now you have this kid, Tyler Smith. They've had this run. They've also had cheap quarterbacks for the most part, as far as with Romo and then with Dak. Do teams look at it as if there's a window open and they go for it and then they realize the window's closed? Do they just say, screw it, let's forge through it? Or do they have to go back and say, we got to take a beating for a couple of years?
David, we've talked about this before. Do we see Jerry Jones willing at his age to take a beating? Jerry's very, very competitive. He wants to win another Super Bowl that's not related to Jimmy Johnson, whether Jimmy won 2 or Switzer won 1 with Jimmy's players. He wants to win another one. And I don't see him at his age saying, okay, we're going to suffer through 2 or 3 years. Look what happened to the Texans. It's 3 bad years. Sometimes it's even worse. Sometimes you get bad and you stay bad. And it necessitates a lot of changes. So I think they will keep pushing the cap down the road. At some point, maybe after Jerry dies, who knows how long he's going to live, then they're going to have to redo it. The key is you've got to have a quarterback. Getting Romo, who was undrafted, and then getting Dak in the 4th round. And, will they get the hat trick of quarterbacks like that? I don't think so. They may, you don't have to get them at the top of the draft. There's other moves they made. Look at Lamar Jackson. And so you just got to know what you're doing. And I think with Will McClain, if they're listening to him, he's a great personnel man, then they'll have a chance when they need a quarterback to get a good one. It just won't be up top 2 or 3 picks.
John McClain with us, Hall of Fame columnist on the NFL, the draft later on this month, and specific stories around the league.
John, would you like to send a message to Scott Drew regarding Kentucky's interest in him?
Yeah, first of all, I was up there for the eclipse yesterday. Lester's had my best friend and I. We went out to the dam. We were out there with his sister, and we went out there. It has a great spot close to the airport, and it was fantastic. And of course, we got to go over to Georgia, and so we left at 4:15. Figured we'd be back by the start of the Astros at 7, and then have plenty of time to watch the basketball. And we got back at 9:45. All the times I've been between Waco and Houston, 5 hours and 45 minutes. Worst traffic I've ever seen. Anyway, back to Scott. I do not see him. You guys know him. If he turns down Louisville and gives his word that he is coming back for another raise, an extension, and he's got his dream home, I've heard, about to be built. Would he turn right around and go to Kentucky? He stays in Waco. Scott is a god forever. No pressure at all. Great recruiting classes. New building he helped build. I think him, and this is blasphemous, of course, they should build statues of Scott Drew and Kim Mulkey outside the arena. It's like I still think they need a statue of Singletary out there with RG3. But I just don't see Scott turning around after he gave his word, his handshake, and taking off for Kentucky where there's more pressure in any program in college basketball.
He has a top 5 salary. Now, again, salaries change during the offseason. He has a top 5 assistant coaching staff budget and a top 5 NIL budget that he's had to do most of that, but Baylor then amped that up because of Louisville, et cetera. And by the way, a brand new facility that it was kind of like his name is on it without his name being on it. So he would get an extra $1 million or $2 million at Kentucky, if maybe $2 or $3 million, but at the same time, is that worth the extra scrutiny at a place that runs people off? Even Tubby Smith got run off. So I don't see it happening, but who knows?
If he takes it, David, we will all wish him the very
absolutely
best, because he did the best coaching job in the history of college basketball when he came to Waco. But if you want to be the best and you want to run with the big dogs, you got to pay with the big dogs, and Baylor has always done that with Scott. And I just can't imagine what else does he need. He's got his building. He's got his best recruiting class ever coming in. Players want to go there and play. And if he does, more power to him. But I don't think anybody sees Scott doing that.
I asked a Baylor administrator about whether Nate Oates, who had put out a statement, or whoever, would Scott need to do that? And they said, if you're a guy that's been a coach that's left every 3 or 4 years, probably you want to kind of calm the tide. But when you've had somebody who's been here through what he's been through in 21 years, he doesn't need to put out a statement, although I'm sure the fan base would love to see it. But that was also something that was mentioned, which I thought made a lot of sense.
What did they do after Louisville? Did they put out a statement?
No. He was on our show, made a comment. It was kind of a generic comment. So no matter what he would have said, it said he's there forever, Livingstone, Mac, etc. And then people say, yeah, but he never said no, which he apparently never was either. He did say no because he's still a part of Baylor. Whether or not Kentucky's a different animal or not remains to be seen.
Unless he's always had a dream of coaching at the University of Kentucky. And if there's another school he'd rather go to, he could probably do it. So, of course, we all hope he doesn't. But if he does, boy, wish him the very best, because he would need it, considering everything that's gone on at Kentucky. I don't think it's the premier job anymore. UConn is the premier job, and Danny Early's already turned it down. So, if you leave Kentucky to go to Arkansas, that Kentucky job, not real good.
Thank you very much. That Arkansas money is huge. That's John McClain, Hall of Fame columnist, with us on 365 Sports.
There is one thing that I've thought about with Scott Drew.